everyone. My name is Nina Wilson. It's very nice that you're all out there in internet land. It's a new world here. I'm a former restaurant owner and a chef. Had a catering business and have been working in the business for many, many years. I worked at Gourmet Magazine in the 80s when we had 2-hour lunches and tea and all sorts of lovely things. And one of my favorite things to do is to teach. So thanks to Arts in Connecticut, a wonderful organization headed by our lovely Barbara, I am here to be with all of you. And I hope that you're ready to get your sweet on, because we're going to make some delicious chocolate-covered strawberries. They're very well known for, you know, on Valentine's Day, of course. That's where we see them everywhere, boxes and boxes of them. And one might note also that they are also very expensive on Valentine's Day. So the good news is that I'm going to teach you how to make them so you don't have to spend all that money. We like to support all kinds of chef people and baking people, but I would rather have you keep that money in your pocket. So a few little notes about Valentine's Day chocolate strawberry covered strawberries. The strawberries themselves date back to ancient Rome. They were a symbol of fertility and very well known in that circle. And as a symbol of Venus, who was the goddess of love. So of course, we know that anything that has to do with chocolate and fruit is a delicious thing, and always relevant on days when we are talking about hearts and Valentines. So here we are now, and we're in summer. So we're not on Valentine's Day, but we are in summer. And fortunately, all the snow is gone, and we have lots of nice hot sun that's good for the strawberries. So they're growing now, and we get to partake in some lovely strawberries. And chocolate covered strawberries date back to the 60s. I found a little bit of pieces of good information about that. I didn't know that there was a person who created the recipe, in fact. Her name is Lorraine LaRusso, and she used to run a little gourmet shop in Chicago in the 60s. And one day she decided to dunk a strawberry in the chocolate, and here we are many years later, and now we have chocolate covered strawberries. So I never knew that. I love doing research. And so we discovered that that's how they came to be. And
excuse me, Ms. Nina, are you guys shooting live on Facebook as well?
I believe we are shooting live on Facebook.
On the Arts and CT page?
Hold on. I believe so.
Okay.
My illustrious cameraman says yes.
Okay.
I'm blessed. It should be a pretty obvious thing. Yeah. Okay. So so here we are. So the strawberries that we're using, there are many different companies that produce strawberries, of course. The most well-known are probably Driscoll. I'm sure any time of the year you see this label that says Driscoll's only the finest berries. I believe that they are located, the farm is located in California. They're very well known in the food world. Driscoll strawberries, very often, these are not those, but very often around February, you'll see Driscoll strawberries that are larger than this, and they have a stem on them, which a lot of chefs like because just it's a nice look. These are just regular strawberries, but a nice brand. So that's it on the strawberries. We also, as I'm sure all of you know, there are many different kinds of chocolate. You know, there's dark chocolate, semi-sweet chocolate, white chocolate, which of course we all know is not really chocolate. You really can use any kind of chocolate. It's really your preference. You could use, if you like dark chocolate, which is not quite as sweet, you could dip the strawberries in that, or semi-sweet, or white. Today we're going to be using regular chocolate and white chocolate. And I have these melted to get rolling when we start dipping things and some different things to put on them. But I'm also going to give you a little demo about how to melt the chocolate. So the other thing to note is people are always saying, well, you know, if they're new to making chocolate covered strawberries, they're always saying, well, you know, what chocolate should I use? What's the best chocolate? You know, so the best chocolate in the chef world, one would call couverture, which is, that's in French. In English, it's called covering chocolate. So that is the most high-end chocolate, and part of the reason that it's very high-end is that it has it has between 32 and 39% cocoa butter, which is part of what makes it very smooth and silky. Also adds to the cost. It's more expensive. It's a very pure chocolate. Doesn't have a lot of additives in it, and from a baking standpoint, it's lovely to work with because it melts like that. So, but you do not have to go out. So some of the names of couverture, of covering chocolate, would be Caillebout, C-A-L-L-E-B-A-U-T, Barry Caillebout, Valrhona, Scharfenberger. There are many different names. Those are all very high end. And of course, then there are other single origin chocolates, of which there are many companies, excuse me, out in California and in Seattle. But we don't have to go, the whole idea is to make something beautiful in your home with your family and for a holiday or as an activity for your kids. Of course, at this time of COVID, I hope I don't have to be saying that too much longer in this time of COVID. We're all looking for activities to stimulate our brains. Probably we don't want to stimulate our stomachs too much. I don't know about you, but when I'm bored, I go eat something sometimes. So, but doing this kind of an activity would be good at this time of COVID. It's a little luxurious, it's fun, it's something to talk about, and of course, something lovely to have at the end of your meal. So, but having said all that, those are the fancy kinds of chocolate. It would be fun if you wanted to do an experiment to go, you know, if you had a little extra money, go buy a bar of that kind of fancy chocolate and see how lovely it is to work with. Having said all that, you don't have to do that. Anything will do. Any particular kind of these. I got this chocolate at the grocery store. So I have Nestle's Toll House chocolate in a bag. This was about $2.99 a bag. It's melted right here. And then this it's called specialty Belgian chocolate, but this would certainly be kind of like Nestle's or anything along those lines. So it's not necessarily fancy. It's not covering chocolate, but for our purposes, it works very well. So the one thing that you can do, it's not necessary, but you can, when you're melting the chocolate, add a little bit of oil to it just to kind of give it a little bit of a leg up to get it melting more. It doesn't make it melt more quickly. It just gives it a little silkier texture and it makes it a little easier for dipping. If you don't have oil, it's not a necessity. You put in about a teaspoon. So we're going to get cooking here. I'm going to show you what to do. I'm sure lots of you have eaten these. I don't know how many of you have made them, but for the kids out there, this is a great thing to do for your family sometime. You really impress your parents, you know. You can kick them out of the kitchen and say, no, I'm going to cook now. It does require a little bit of warmth, heat, but not any particularly open flames. So let's get on to the cooking. And the first thing that we need to talk about is how to melt chocolate. So I find that when you talk to people about melting chocolate, it's sort of very similar to talking to people about cooking fish. Their eyes kind of get wide and they go, oh my God, or poaching eggs, they get very nervous. So I'm here to take the nerves out of it. It's really very simple. However, you do have to treat your chocolate with kindness, whether you have very expensive Caillebout covering chocolate or you have the Nestle's variety from Stop and Shop. You still have to be gentle and kind, in particular with how you heat it. So there are basically two ways to melt the chocolate. One is in a double boiler, which some of you kids, you probably don't even know what that is. My grandmother and all of you had grandmothers. I'm sure that your grandmother had a double boiler in the cupboard. So basically what it is, in French, it's bain-marie, which means water bath. So you have one pot on top. I don't have one to show you, but you have one pot on top and then a larger pot on the bottom, and the pot on the top literally fits into the bottom pot. And the most important thing, if you choose to do it over the stove to melt the chocolate, is to realize that with a bain-marie, you only want the water probably maybe an inch, and it should be 5 or 6 inches away from the bowl. So if you use a pot, most of the time, if you even have a double boiler, what I do is take away the top lid and I get a bowl that will fit snugly on top of the bottom pan. And the only thing that's reaching the bottom of the bowl where the chocolate is melting is the steam. So you put it on low to medium heat, and it's actually the steam from the bowl that will melt the chocolate. It's recommended to use plastic to melt the chocolate in. Some of this I did do in China because I didn't have a plastic bowl at that moment. The reason for that is that you don't want anything to be a conductor of heat. So glass, china, you know, holds the heat in more. It's not, you know, it's not anything that's going to ruin the chocolate, but it's just safer to do it in some kind of a vessel that won't hold the heat. Plastic doesn't hold the heat. So these are all just little tips of the trade. So that's the bain-marie method, the water bath. We're not going to do that today. I just wanted to let you know that was one thing. Now today we have microwaves. I've had them for years. That's probably the fastest and simplest way to do it. So we're going to do the microwave method here. And I'm just going to give you before we get started dipping the strawberries and talking about that, I'm just going to give you a little demo because it's pretty interesting to see that it's not that difficult. So these are white chocolate chips, and I put in a teaspoon of oil. Not a necessity, but just to make it a little easier. So I put it in my microwave, and I put it on, I put cook time, and then I do 30 seconds, and then I hit start. And it probably takes about three times, depending upon how much chocolate you have in there. And then after each 30 seconds, you go in there with a spoon, and you'll mix it up well. Again, it's better to use a spatula for that, you know, and we're going to mix that up. But it's very straightforward. So, and the oil that I used in it was just regular vegetable oil, nothing fancy. You know, I think people think with things that are fancy and expensive, if you go out and buy them, you think that everything about it is expensive, but really that's not the case. So this hasn't really done anything yet. Sometimes it depends upon what you're using here. So we're going to do it one more time and melt it. And you know, I have a few other little things to show you, but we'll melt this first. This is probably the quickest way to do it. And the other thing with chocolate, which I'm sure you all know, you know, no liquid. So in other words, not the oil, but no water. You can't, any water, you get any water, even a droplet of water in your chocolate mixture, you're done. And then then the chocolate seizes, and really, if it's really seized, it looks like a ball of, you can see how, I don't know if you can see that, it's starting to melt. See, it's pretty simple, probably like 2 more times. So, so if you get any water in it, you're done. So if you want to add, let's say you're making truffles, or you're making something else with chocolate, and even this, if you wanted to, you could add a little bit of liqueur at the same time that you're melting the chocolate, but all at the same time, and preferably at the same temperature. But forget that. Let's not put any liquor in it. We'll leave that part out. So here we are. A lot of times when you make truffles, you would warm your cream up, and then you'd add the cream into the chocolate and that melts it. But that's another recipe and another time, maybe next time. So here we are. Here's the white chocolate. It's all melted. That has a little teeny bit of oil in it. You can see that really didn't take very long. And now you can say that you know how to melt chocolate in a microwave. So now we're going to do the chocolate, the dark chocolate. So how are we doing on time? 3:15. So I also have a few other little things here. I showed you the strawberries, and we're going to start dipping in 1 second. So I thought it would be fun, since we're coming up on July 4th, to make some, to do some decorations on the strawberries that were red, white, and blue, since we're coming up on the 4th of July. So I have some pastry bags here with what's called a coupler and a tip, which you can get at Michael's if any of you live near Michael's. I'm not sure who's watching. If you're in Europe, I'm not sure where to go. But if you're in this neck of the woods in Connecticut, you would you go to Michael's. And any kind of store that carries baking equipment would have them. And basically what it is it's you have the plastic. These are disposable bags, which also you can get at the grocery store or at or again at Michael's, a store like that, or a restaurant supply. These are disposable. They come in lots of different sizes. These are great to have because you can you put the coupler on the inside, this plastic thing, then you put the tip, and then you put the coupler, the round circle on it. So we're getting there. And so the good thing about having a coupler is you can swap out if you want to do a different kind of a tip, you can swap it out. You don't have to keep emptying the bag and throwing it out. And for our purposes, we're going to have to warm this up again because it got cold. This is white chocolate with coloring in it, and you can use the white chocolate. You can add food coloring. You need to use a gel type, which is also available at Michael's, or powder. This is sparkly things to put on your strawberries. This is red and blue. So you just take a little teeny bit of a, like a toothpick and dip it in and then mix it in with the white chocolate. And that's what I did here. So, all right. So this is the chocolate, the dark chocolate's taking a little longer because there's a little more in it. So, so I'm going to, we'll start dipping the strawberries in just a minute. I wish I could ask everyone if they had any questions, but I can't because you're out there in internet land. So, huh? Oh, okay. My friend here.
You can ask questions. We can hear you. We talk back.
All right, I didn't know if you could. I knew you could hear me, but I didn't know if you could ask questions. So if anybody has any questions, please speak up.
What's your favorite kind of dark chocolate?
Oh, good question. Probably Kaibo, which is Belgian, C-A-L-L-E-B-A-U-T. It's lovely. And once you use that kind of chocolate, which is a covering chocolate, once you use that, you'll never go back. I mean, it just has it has no additives in it. So when you have any of these kinds of chocolates, not to be disparaging of these companies, but they all, the covering chocolate is very pure. It has very little, it doesn't really have any additives in it. And a lot of these other chocolates have a lot of extra things in them, and not as high a butter, cocoa butter, which we talked about before. So, anybody else?
Yes, can I use extra virgin olive oil instead of normal oil?
What a good question. No.
Okay.
You can't. Tell you what. Why do you think you can't use extra virgin olive oil? Let me ask you. Why do you think that might not be good?
Angel asked about
Perhaps it has a little bit of water in it.
That's a good observation. No, not for that reason, but olive oil, especially extra virgin olive oil, it's pretty strong. Like, have you ever tasted it by itself? Like, put your finger in it and tasted it? No. Well, anyway, it's, all different oils have different flavors, and olive oil is being made of olive. And extra virgin is like, it's very, it's strong. So you wouldn't want anything to mess with the flavor of the chocolate. So I would recommend, if you're going to add a little bit of oil, you just, inexpensive vegetable oil is fine. But that's a really good question. And you know what? Part of being a chef and cooking in the kitchen is it's really important to pay attention to all those details. And a lot of times the way you learn about those details is by making a mistake. And it's okay to make mistakes, Actually, that's really how you learn, is by making mistakes. That's what I think. And a lot of times if you go to a restaurant and you have a dish, so a lot of times you don't know what goes on behind the scenes, you might have a piece of cornbread underneath your filet of beef when it should have been a portobello mushroom, but they ran out of mushrooms, so they gave you cornbread and it was actually better. So the kitchen is a good place for learning how to live life. That's my theory. Any other questions?
Go ahead, Angel.
I tried strawberry with pineapple before and chocolate, and
Ask her how to use it.
how do I incorporate it, pineapple, into the strawberries? Do I cut it up and then put it on?
Yeah. Yes. So have you ever been to a wedding where they had a chocolate fountain?
No.
Remember when we went to the thing and the chocolate was dripping down the side? Yeah.
Or dessert fondue? So yes, you can. If you're going to do something like chocolate fondue or for these purposes, because why do you think it would?
I'm sorry, we couldn't hear you. Can you take them out? What? Can you say that again?
So why do you think dipping pineapple in the chocolate might not work?
It might mess with the flavor.
No, actually, I think it would be delicious. I think any kind of fruit with, I love pineapple, and I love it with chocolate would be delicious. No. So the thing with, how pineapple is very, very liquidy, has lots of liquid in it. And, strawberries have a lot of liquid in them too, but they're encased by this wonderful skin and these little seeds. And it's a whole lovely little entity unto itself. And the moisture's on the inside. So that means you can dip it. But the pineapple, the chocolate, the short answer is, I don't know how to say a short answer. The short answer is it would slide off because it's too wet.
It slides off because it's too wet.
It would slide off because it's too wet. So here's the chocolate. Here's the rest of the chocolate that we melted in the microwave.
Okay.
And another interesting fact that,
I could go ahead.
how when you pick up chocolate and somebody will give you chocolate and you say, oh, wow, I'll eat that later. And you stick it in your pocket. And then your mother, your husband, your wife, whoever does the laundry, goes in and does your pants. And then they empty out the pockets and they're like, oh my God, why is there melted chocolate in your pocket? So chocolate melts at the temperature a little under the temperature of the body. So that's why whenever you're holding chocolate in your hand, if you're on Halloween or something and you have a Hershey's Kiss, if you hold it for a long time, you open your hand and it's melted. And some people have hotter hands than others. A lot of times in the baking world, in the confectionery world in particular, they look for chefs who call, I can't think of the word, chocolatier. They look for them that you want cold hands. So I love doing things like this, but I do not have cold hands. So when you work with chocolate, it's a good thing to have cold hands. That's a little extra piece of information. So we're gonna start dipping. So I got these fancy toothpicks. You really can use any kind of toothpicks. These are probably for pigs in a blanket or something. But whenever I make anything, I always want to make sure that the things that I make with the product are attractive, you know, that the platter that I use is pretty. I tried to find mint so to display our strawberries with, but I could only find very little containers of mint and they were too expensive. So I did not purchase those. So what we're going to do, first of all, we're going to check the chocolate because I've had this sitting here for a little while and we don't want it too hot, but this is now kind of like it's a little too thick. So we're going to get it a little warm at 30 seconds again, because we want it loose enough so that we can dip the strawberries in it. So these I've washed already. Very important note with this, probably the most important piece of information I've given you all day is this. So, you know, you always want to wash off strawberries because you don't know where they came from. We know where they came from, but they might have dust on them or, you know, a little dirt from the garden. So you also want to make sure that you rinse them off. Don't soak them in the water because then you'll have to throw them out and they should never be frozen. So once you wash, yes?
I'm sorry. Which one of these consistencies, what was the consistency? I missed that part. Is this consistency the right consistency?
Of the chocolate?
Yes.
Okay, so this is, I'll show you. So this is okay, but if you were standing here and you could see it's it's not even warm, so it can be a little warm, which will allow for it for you to you know, cover the berries more easily. So I don't even know exactly how to tell you what, it needs to be loose. So this is
okay.
It's still not loose enough. So, and you know what? The best thing to do, oops, wait a minute. You know, a lot of the kitchen, a lot of what goes on in the kitchen is, I think, especially when you're learning something new, like anything, it's trial and error. I mean, you look at a recipe book and it says do A, B, and C. And, you know, as a chef, you can look at the recipe and you know that there's a lot of information in between the lines that they may not be telling you because they don't either have the space or the time or whatever. But a lot of learning is trial and error. So if you put the strawberry in this bowl when it wasn't loose enough, you'd see that it didn't really cover the strawberry. And you'd be like, oh, wow, let me throw this chocolate back in the microwave for a few minutes and see how it does. So this is, I think this needs a little more, one more. Any other questions while I'm standing here? No? All right. So what I'm going to do is stick I'm going to put the toothpick right in the center of the berry. We're going to put those on there. Any other questions? I don't hear any other people. So do we know where everybody's from? Like, are there people from Spain or anything online today?
I am from Mexico, but I live in Boston.
You live where?
Near Boston.
You live near Boston?
Yeah, but I am Mexican.
Wow, wonderful. Welcome. Well,
Thank you.
well, Mexico has, I think there's some wonderful dishes. I can't think, sauce mole, doesn't that have chocolate in it?
Yes, yes, it has.
Did I say it correctly?
Mole.
Mole. Okay, good. Good. All right. So now this is a little, look, I'll do the spoon. So you can see it's like, before it was like a little, almost like mayonnaise. Now it's very loose. And that will be much easier because otherwise you have to do a lot of effort to get the berry into the thing. We don't want to work too hard. We want to have fun and eat well, but we don't want to kill ourselves. I don't think I've ever eaten sauce mole, but it always sounded very good to me. Very delicious. All right. All right. So we're just gonna keep going with these. The
Can I
other
ask a question?
yes.
How long do the strawberries last once they're dipped in chocolate? Because I know when I have them just fresh in the house, you know, it's a couple of days and then they start getting all furry.
Good. That's a very good question. So I would say once you're saying the finished product.
Yes.
Okay. So ideally, if you were having a dinner party tomorrow, I would make them tonight and serve them tomorrow. That's ideal. You could go out 2 days. You certainly would be okay, safe to do it in 2 days, but I would say the night before would be the best, because what happens is, actually I think this is fine. What happens is the fruit starts to shrink, and then it lets off a little bit of it seeps a little bit of gas.
Right.
And so and then it starts to like weep, and you don't want that. You want it all to be beautiful. So that would be my I would say the night before, you know, 1 day.
Would you refrigerate them overnight then if you made them the night before?
Yes, definitely refrigerate them.
Okay.
Do not put them in the freezer. I think sometimes people, I read one post somewhere and somebody said, oh, can I freeze them? I'm going to freeze the berries and then dip them. And I said, no, that's definitely not a good idea. But, you know, if people don't know, it's good to ask the question. So I'm taking this off here, and I'm going to stick this in these. So this is what, I didn't have time to show you all this, but this is white chocolate, which I mentioned before. And this is gel coloring. So you literally like take a toothpick and dip it in the gel and then dip it in the white chocolate and mix it. And then let's say you were having a baby shower and you wanted to have all pink strawberries with yellow dots on it or something for the baby's shower, you could do that with white chocolate, which is kind of, you know, it's fun. I think a lot of people assume right away that if it's chocolate, you can't put anything in it. You can't put a lot of things in it. You have to do gel. You can't do, you know, in the old days they had liquid food coloring, which is not a good idea, because anything like that, you run the risk of having the chocolate seize. Oh. Okay. All right. So part of teaching is talking, talking and cooking. So we're going to dip the strawberries now, unless you think that I'm just going to keep talking forever and you'll never see the finished product. But that's not the case, I promise. Any other questions? Nope. Okay, so you could see, so this is just a plastic coupler on here, and the chocolate, and it's a little loose. And the beauty of that plastic coupler is that you don't, you know, a lot of times you have a pastry bag and you have a metal tip, and you obviously can't put that in the microwave. So this means you can swap tips and you can get it warm if you need to. Okay. All right, we're going to start dipping here. So I think we're pretty good on time here. So this is what I'm going to do. This is the whole point of all of this conversation, right? All the talking here. So here we are with the strawberry. So the other thing you want to know, there are a lot of different sizes of strawberries, of course. There's fraise de bois, which is French for, it's a baby strawberry, strawberry of the woods, fraise de bois. So those are tiny. Those come out sometime in the summer. They're divine. You could find them somewhere if you're marching along in the woods, or sometimes people have them in their garden. They're beautiful. I would not be dipping those. And they're the particular kind of Driscoll that are huge, that are fun, but you really want to look for strawberries that are all pretty much the same size. So basically, I hope you can see this is just what I'm doing. you also could use some sort of a cylinder. I have a bowl here, but you could use a measuring cup, a glass measuring cup. You know, I don't have this quite deep enough. I would rather have this deeper. The deeper it is, the better. And, you know, then you dunk it in there and then just let it drip off a little bit. And I have wax paper here. You can use, I tried to find, they sell parchment paper, believe it or not, at the grocery store. I could not find any. That went along the ways with the flour and the yeast. Because of COVID, everybody's baking like crazy. I don't know what they're doing with the parchment paper, but there wasn't any there for me. So, so we're gonna do some white and some dark. No? Let's see. Any other questions? I wish you were here to eat these, all of you out there. Okay, so now we're doing the white. And then I'm going to show you a technique. Hopefully this works. Where we can, we're going to make stripes. And that's called wet on wet. So we have to do that and make sure that, that it's wet. And when we put these other things on it, we're going to make sure it's wet too. So I'm just going to dip all these and then we're going to put things on them. So sometimes it's kind of fun to have salt. I wanted to have like smoky sea salt. I didn't find any of that. This is regular salt just for fun. I have coconut. You could also toast this if you wanted to. And I have crushed, chopped up walnuts. You could use pecans. You could use almonds. Pistachios are lovely because they're green. That's a pretty, makes it pop. This is also from the grocery store, and these are just all fun little cute things to put on. This is sanding sugar. So again, if you had a baby's birthday party or a shower or something, you could do that. So we're making progress here. So, and you want to make sure that once you do this, we are gonna, you have to make sure that you get the whatever's being dipped in it pretty quick so that they don't dry. But they really have to kind of go in the fridge in order to set up. Any other questions? Anybody want to come over for dinner? Having duck, I heard. Who likes duck out there? Anybody have duck? No, I don't hear it.
I love duck.
Oh, good. Who said that?
Me.
Me.
Marcia.
Marcia. I like duck too.
I love duck too.
Oh, good. Well, my friend here who's helped me do all these technical things, God bless him, he was telling me about how he goes to this wonderful duck farm in Hudson Valley. What's the name of it?
Hudson Valley Foie Gras.
Huh?
Hudson Valley Foie Gras.
It's called Hudson Valley Foie Gras. So I understand a lot of companies are, that's kind of problematic now, I think, because they discovered, or a lot of the PETA people discovered that perhaps treating the animals that way isn't so good. But if for any of you who've ever had foie gras, I don't know, I'm an animal lover, but I also like all those things. It's hard sometimes. All right. Okay, I'm going to try this, and I don't know, it might be too hard. Yep.
No, we're supposed to be waiting. Come in now. But this is so delicious. What are you doing?
Okay.
She's eating the strawberries.
I know. That's the only frustrating part about doing this online is that I can't feed anybody. You know, that's a chef. It's like, I can't feed people if I can't feed people.
Well, if you give us your address, we're happy to come over.
Okay. Let's see. I have to warn you.
So good.
Oh, no.
Round to the nuts. Oh, wait a minute. We're not on mute. Sorry, y'all.
Okay, so I'm going to dip a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of little salt on this, just for color. And we're gonna put coconut on this one. Can you see, everybody see okay? We're doing the nuts. Oops. So really the beauty of it is you could do anything. Okay. Here's my idea for red, white, and blue here. So the other thing you can do with these pastry bags, if you want to be bothered, is you can put them in a bag, like a baggie like this, and then make sure it's sealed up tight and put it in hot water. And then so see, this one will be, whoa, here we go. This would be perfect for a baby's birthday. I mean, a baby, like a shower, that blue, baby blue. And then we have little red ones. Woo! Those go all over the place. Okay. All right. And then a little sanding sugar. Let's see. And you want to kind of put this, you know, the sanding sugar, do it over something else so that you don't, you know, you want it all to look like a piece of art, right? So that it's all contained. And then with these, I'm going to finally do the red, white, and blue. So what other things would people like to have a class about? That's what I want to know.
I want to learn how to make a souffle.
Oh, that's pretty fun. That's pretty easy, actually. That's another, I like teaching things that people are afraid to do because it's so much fun. Because I think in life, I'm such a philosopher, I can't help myself. So I think in life, like the kitchen's such a good metaphor for life because, I mean, you kids aren't like this. You kids aren't afraid of anything. But when you get past about 12, you know, we all tell ourselves all these things about why we can't do A, B, and C. So it's fun as a teacher to, it's just so much fun to be able to show somebody how to do something that they think is really difficult. And people tend to be afraid of what I find, chocolate, egg, anything to do with egg whites and fish. Not in that order particularly, but there are a lot of times they're just afraid of all those things. And there's no reason to be afraid. Now I have to move over here or you can't see me.
All right, can you also show us how to clean a fish then in a video? Because I've done it, but I've done it poorly.
That's all right. That's here. Okay, so see this? Can you see me? See, I can't see you now. I don't know what happened to the camera, but. So, and then the other thing you can do with this for fun is to just do little decorations. So this method's called wet on wet. So both chocolates are wet. A lot of times you want to do it and then you have a little bit of a design. You want to, and that was supposed to have, so here, this one I'm going to do, and see it's got a little hot. So this is, so there we have for the 4th of July. And I think we might have one more thing. We have a little, this is edible. I wanted to find some gold dust, which is a lot of fun. And edible gold leaf, which can be eaten. This is shiny. I don't know if you can see it, but this is kind of fun. And it almost makes it look like a piece of jewelry, not a piece of food. But of course, and you can eat it. So That's kind of fun. And then I have, that's pink. And then I have a little bit of green. Huh? These are all things, I'm not sure where all of you are, but these are all things that you could, the gel paste and the things, the shiny stuff, all that stuff you can get at Michael's, which is, I don't know where you all are, but it's, Michael's carries everything. And this is the grocery store. So, and it has everything, stars, stripes, everything else. Okay, yes. So these that we just did have to go in the refrigerator. So we're gonna pop these in the fridge. And okay. And these we have to pop these in the fridge, and they'll set up for about an hour, and then you want them to be nice and firm. And you'll be able to tell if you touch them and it's sticky, then you'll know that it's, not ready.
My family is not waiting for the fridge, as you can very well tell. The mother has eaten about 5 of them. She's just sneaking them in, staying off the camera. I mean, what a mess over here. They're just having a really good time. They have dipped chocolates and nuts and sprinkles. And they're like, well, I gotta go get another batch of strawberries. So I'm telling you, they're enjoying this class.
Oh, good. So this one I did the other day. So this is an example of the strawberries shrinking a little bit. But this you can do. That's why I said get a styrofoam board or even a cake circle. You can like put it in. So this is the same technique as these, where you dip the strawberry in, but you have a long skewer. So then you can, have you ever seen people have like chocolate covered strawberries in a bouquet? Maybe a boyfriend or a girlfriend will want to do that for their boyfriend. And you could get a little, at a florist, they have floral tape so that you could run tape around this, and then you could make a whole bouquet of chocolate covered strawberries. So that was why I did that one for you, to show you that. And the rest of them are, these are we have stars and sprinkles and a little purple dust and some plain ones. And so that's a wrap, as they say.
Those look so good.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming. And, tell Barbara, or maybe you could send an email into Arts in Connecticut about what other classes you'd like to see, because I would love to do this again. It was great fun, and I'm very glad you came.
Thanks so much.
We'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Make sure you guys let us know what you would like to see, as we're getting ready to go into a 6-week course. So we're asking people to sign up, because if we have more than enough people on next week, that course will start, and she will give out her next ingredients. So you can be prepared for that class. Did you guys enjoy the class?
It was great.
We did. You guys say thank you. Everybody say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.